Hello, sir. Today I'm going to be talking about step functions. So first, I would like to define what step functions are. Simply put, step functions are functions which define what a decimal number should do. It rolls a decimal number to either a bigger number than the decimal number, a bigger whole number than the decimal number, or a smaller whole number than the decimal number. So let me give you some examples. For example, before I talk about examples, I want to first define how do we know that we are supposed to roll it to the greater number or smaller number? Well, we have two symbols in step functions. We have this, which looks like a ceiling. As you can see, this is kind of like a ceiling on top of the number. And then we have one symbol that looks like a floor. As you can see, it covers beneath the number itself. Examples: 5.8. This has a ceiling function to it, and that's why it's going to become 6. Another example to a ceiling function would be 5.3. Now, even though normally if the question were to ask you to round a whole number, you would round it to the closest whole number. If I were to say round 6.7 to the closest whole number, you would be rounding 6.7 to 7. But in step functions, we don't care about that. In step functions, what is more important is that we look at the symbols that were given to us. In here, as you can see, even though we have 5.3 and the closer whole number would be 5 itself, because it's a ceiling function, we're supposed to roll it up to 6. Let's give another example. Let's say 9.8 once more. As you can see, since this is a ceiling function, floor function, this will be rolled back to 9. Another example would be 9.4. And because again it's a ceiling function, it will be rolled down to 9. In step functions, we also have different ways of saying it. We can either say ceiling and then put 5.8, or you can say floor and then put 9.8. If it's written in this way, it's also the same thing. You're supposed to either round it down to 9, or if it's a ceiling function, then you're supposed to make it the bigger whole number than the decimal number. Now, one important tip or one important note is that step functions and ceiling functions can be sometimes took mistakenly on negative numbers. Let's write some numbers, right? Let's just hold up. Let me just draw a number line. Let's say this is -5. Sorry. Let's say -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. In a negative step function, which can vary if it's a ceiling or a floor function, it is important to see that you do not only look at the closest whole number, which seems to be bigger, you also need to look at the sign. For example, if I were to say negative 5.7 and I wanted for this to go to the closest bigger whole number, what you would want to do is roll this to negative 5. Now you may ask, isn't negative 6 bigger than negative 5? The problem is it is not. As you can see, and you can probably realize that, which is important, that negative 6 is actually farther away, or it is a lower number than negative 5, and that's why when it says a negative number to be rounded to the highest closest whole number, then you round it to the number itself, or in other words, you round it to the closest bigger number, not the negative bigger number. That is important. For example, if I were to write ceiling 5.3, am I right? Floor, sorry, this is floor function, this is ceiling function, and this is negative 5.3. What would this happen? It would be becoming negative 6. Since negative 6 is a lower number than negative 5, in a floor function, we will putting it up below negative 5. And as you can see in here, as I have drawn in the number line, negative 5 is bigger than negative 6, negative 4 is bigger than negative 5, negative 3 is bigger than negative 3, no, negative 4. So in the simpler terms, when you're rounding the negative numbers, also make sure that you're rounding to the correct number. As I said, sometimes people can mix the floor and ceiling function when it comes to negative numbers. Other than that, we don't really have anything else. We could write, for example, ceiling function in here. It's the same thing. You could write just ceiling function, ceiling function, floor function. It also works the same as negative numbers. And I hope you have at least been able to clear some confusions in your mind. And I hope I get like 20 out of 20. Thank you very much for listening to me.